So Brian's brain asked, what happens to the repossessed vehicles? 15,000 repos a day in the US should provide someone with used cars. Nope. So it really depends on the condition of the repo when whoever is repoing actually gets the car. So if it's a small used car dealer, a buy here, pay here, and they're actually repoing the vehicle, if the vehicle has not been torn apart, if it's in good mechanical condition, if it's something that they can resell, they'll put it right back on their lot and then sell it again. They'll get another down payment. They'll put another customer in it, let them pay their monthly payments for another 3-4 months, and then they'll miss a payment, and then the dealer will go back and repo the car again. A lot of times with the bigger financial institutions, when you have auto loan defaults, what they'll do is whenever they actually repossess a vehicle, if it's gotten to that point, then they'll actually send it to auction and just wholesale it. A lot of times when you have these cars that are repoed and customers are not making their payments on these cars, they're not taking care of these cars. So I would say most of the time that even the buy here, pay here dealers that I've talked to and these higher end financial institutions, whenever they get these cars back from these customers, they're typically not in great shape. So most of them are going to be sent to auction just to dump and get whatever they can get for them. And I see a lot of these repo vehicles come through auction, and when they do, they're trashed out. The dealers that are sending to auction, they don't even clean them out. There's usually groceries in them. There's trash. We've found dirty diapers in these cars. We've found just the nastiest stuff of where people had just junked them up. A lot of times they'll have body damage on them. They'll have usually mechanical problems because as we know through these people who are buying from these buy here, pay here lots, and they have to get these cars financed, there's a saying in the used car market, these customers, they can only afford one thing, and they're going to either pay for their car or they're either going to fix their car, but they can't afford to do both. So if their car needs something that they have to fix that makes it to where they can't drive it every day, they're typically not going to get the car fixed. They're just going to stop driving it and understand that they're just going to lose their car. And a lot of people actually, they know that that's going to happen, and they just let it happen, and then they'll go and just start the process over again and get a car that does drive well, put another down payment down, and just start the whole cycle over again. And as far as repos adding a substantial amount of inventory to the system, it will add more inventory than what we have now. But the problem with the repos is these cars are mostly junk. The stuff that they're sending, dealers are sending to auction that they've repoed and they don't want to keep on their lot. The reason that they don't want to keep it on their lot is because they're trash. They don't want to have to resell these cars again. So you're really not going to see a lot of these repos really help the inventory situation, because there's a lot of dealers that just won't buy repos. So these repos will come back into the system. There will be some dealers that actually get these cars and repair them. But a lot of these cars are just going to get junked out too. So you've got a lot more repos coming into the system, but it's really not going to cover the deficit that we have from new car trade-ins. Those cars are going to be a lot better than the cars that are actually repoed that are coming through auction, because a lot of times people, when they trade in cars, is not because necessarily they're trash, but the quality is getting worse now, but it's not to the same level of just absolute poopy that the repos are. But people are typically driving these cars every day that they're trading in, and then they're going to trade up to a new car, and that's why they're trading these cars in, and not necessarily because they can't afford to have the car. All right, Philip. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. I finally thought of a good question. What do you guys do to ensure that a vehicle hasn't had its odometer tampered with, and have you caught cars at auction with odometers tampered? So the auctions that I go to, a lot of times they won't run Carfax, but they run something that's called auto check on these cars, which is very similar to Carfax. So if there are any odometer discrepancies, or they have actually, if a car has been branded as TMU, which means true miles unknown, any kind of discrepancy like that, the auction is supposed to let us know in the lane when we're there, they'll have usually a screen that has the car on it, what the bidding price is, and under it will be any kind of announcements, whether the car's salvage, if it's a flood vehicle. Odometer discrepancy is one that we see a lot, and true miles unknown is something that we'll see a lot too. So how we kind of shield ourselves from doing it is we pay for Carfax on a dealer level, and we're able to scan these cars, the VINs of the vehicles that we want to bid on before it goes to the auction. We can actually pull up the Carfax and see the actual lineage of the miles as it's going up, as cars are getting registered, as they're getting inspected. But what we can't catch is obviously stuff that's not reported. So if there's a car that has been driven for 5-10 years with never being registered or inspected, there are some of those out there. And then they go trade into a dealer and the miles have been rolled back, then there's no way of us ever knowing that. So, I mean, the easy answer is that, I mean, we do our homework and check Carfax, and Carfax is going to tell us if there's a problem with the odometer because the timeline of the miles is not going to line up, but it's not going to check everything. So, sometimes when you buy a car from auction, you're just kind of gambling, and sometimes you're just never going to know, and there's no way to know. But I would say in 98% of the cases that the odometer is going to be right with the Carfax and line up, and if there is a problem, then we're going to be able to find it through a Carfax. All right, D-Bell asks, what is the issue with Canadian cars and trucks? So probably referring to a video that I've done recently as an auction video, and I had an F-150 that was going through the lane and was not getting any bids. This was a newer F-150. It looked nice, and no dealer would even try to buy it. So there's two reasons why, and this truck was a Canadian truck, so that's why it wasn't getting any bids. And there's two reasons why dealers can be scared of a Canadian vehicle. One could be if they don't know what the paperwork is. So if a dealer's never bought a Canadian vehicle before and they're just not sure if the title work transfers or not, then that'd be a reason for a dealer not to want to even touch it. And there's a lot of things. We deal with a lot of title issues as we buy vehicles at these auctions, and heaven forbid there be a issue with the Canadian title, anything that somebody needs to re-sign or whatever, because then at that point, you're not dealing with North Carolina's DMV. You're not dealing with a state's DMV that's here in the United States. You're going to have to figure out what you have to do to get that title fixed through Canada. And a lot of dealers are just terrified of that, because that means if there is an issue and they can't get it resolved because it's a Canada title, then they just bought a truck that they get to keep forever and they can't sell it. So number two is easy. It's rust. And we here, where the area that I'm in, we don't get very much snow. We don't have any salt that's around the area. We're not near an ocean. So we don't deal with very much rust at all. We can buy cars that are 15, 20 years old, look at their frame, and they look brand new. So we don't have anything that's really crusty around here. So when we see vehicles that are from up north, or we see any that have a little bit of rust in our area, we typically don't touch them. We don't want to deal with that, because our customers also don't want to deal with it. Our customers live around where we sell in our vehicles, so they haven't dealt with rust. They don't know what's good rust, what's bad rust. So if they see any rust, they just don't want it. So that's the two big reasons why, as far as in my area, a Canadian vehicle is just not going to be wanted. One, because the unknown of the paperwork, and two is rust. And we would treat any vehicle, as far as the rust goes, from the Northeast about the same way. We would rather just stay away from it, just because we don't want to have to deal with the rust. We don't have to deal with customers seeing the rust, and they don't really know what's going into it, if the car is safe or not. So we really try to stay away from anything rusty and anything paperwork wise that we don't know exactly what we're dealing with. LM asked, actually they asked my wife for some reason, missed car questions answered. What do you do if you bought a car through Manheim and it's been 30 plus days and the title is not present? So often when we buy cars from auction, we do not receive a title when we buy. There's only one auction I go to that actually has the titles in-house, that as soon as we pay for it, they hand us a title. It's always a week, 2 weeks after that these titles get mailed to us from the auction. So there's many cases where, especially what LM is asking about, going to like a Manheim auction, and we don't receive a title within 30 days. So we have a couple options at that point. I know Manheim's policy is 30 days, you don't have a title, you can then take the car back to Manheim and they will refund you the money for the vehicle. But there's other auctions that have different policies. I know there's another auction we go to, it's 45 days, which I think is crazy. It needs to be 30 days that a dealer needs to present us with a title. So what our two options are is that we can either take the car back after the 30 days and get our money back, or two, we can just hold on to the car and wait out the title. So there are situations where we do just kind of wait it out, especially if we think we got a really good deal on a car and we're not going to have to do anything to it. We know that we're just going to be able to sell it, and we want to keep this car. Then we'll wait. So we're not on floor plan at all. We pay cash for all of our vehicles. So the interest that we would have to pay on waiting out this car that other dealers might have to pay because they're on floor plans, we don't have to worry about that. We can sit the car at the back of our lot and wait for 90 days if we have to. And that car's not going to cost us any more money other than the traditional lot rot. And when I say that, I mean like batteries, sometimes little sensors will go bad just by sitting. The converters will get some uncombusted fuel in them. We'll have to clean them out again. But all this stuff is relatively cheap to deal with. So that's really the only issue with us waiting on a car, whereas other dealers are going to have to pay more money to just have that car sitting there waiting on a title. So that's our two things. We either hold on to it if we want to keep it, or we'll return it if there's some reason why we just don't want to deal with the car. All right, so this question came in from the community page, and what it was what do I like to watch on YouTube that isn't about cars? So I watch everything. We don't even have cable or satellite or whatever you have for TV anymore. We just watch YouTube stuff for the most part. And what I like to watch is I like to watch disc golf videos. If you've seen some other of my videos, sometimes I'll have a disc sitting back here. I really like disc golf. I play it a lot. I play pickleball a lot, so I watch stuff. I watch pickleball tournaments, videos on that. I like to watch a lot of financial stuff. So I watch Dave Ramsey. I watch Caleb Hammer. I like to watch Minority Mindset. He's a good guy to follow. Andre Jick I think that's how you say his last name, but I really like watching a lot of his videos. I mean, that's not correlated. It's tough because I watch mostly car-related stuff, just updates on what a lot of the other YouTubers are doing. I said YouTuber like I'm a YouTuber. I hate that phrase. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a used car dealer that does YouTube videos. But it's mostly car-related stuff, but when I'm not, it's disc golf, pickleball, financial stuff. I like watching a lot of like stock market stuff too. I really enjoy that, and housing market stuff too, because me and my wife, we are renting a house right now. We sold our house back last February, seemingly right at the peak of the market, so we got lucky with that. Not anything we tried to do timing-wise, but we just got very fortunate, and we have been renting a house to wait out the housing market, and I am tired of renting, but I'm going to continue to wait and just pad some cash so we can get a better deal later. So I follow the housing market very closely. I like to see that it's coming down, and it is. So hopefully that trend continues because I'd like to buy a nice house. But I just got off topic. YouTube videos. Disc golf, pickleball, housing market, financial, Dave Ramsey stuff. That's the kind of stuff I like.